This is an island surrounded by nothing but endless ocean. I'm going to be transforming this island into a massive base, and I have to do this all within 100 days in hardcore Minecraft. On the first day, I didn't waste any time and immediately started punching my first tree. After that, I crafted a wooden pickaxe, mined some cobblestone and upgraded to stone tools. I then realized there were sheep that spawned in my island, which was perfect since I needed a bed, so I gently borrowed their wool to make a bed. I also killed some fish for food and started a small wheat farm. After a productive first day, I went to bed excited for day 2. Before getting started with day 2, I have some goals I want to complete. First, I want to build a massive base. I also want to get full diamond armor and tools before day 10. And of course, I want to defeat the Ender Dragon and hopefully survive for 100 days. After waking up on day 2, I saw a sheep in the ocean, and since food was a constant problem, I decided that I wanted to bring it back up to my island so I could breed it in the future. So I made a path to push the sheep, which was honestly much easier than I thought it was going to be. I then made it a beautiful home where it would live out for the rest of its life. I wanted to make some charcoal for torches, so I started chopping down some trees. While gathering wood for charcoal, I noticed a pig had spawned, and seeing more animals spawn was honestly such a relief, since food had been such a problem since the start of the world. I cooked the logs I gathered into charcoal and made a few torches. Then to make the island a little safer, I placed them around the area. To finish off the day, I started to mine in the small cave which I found and spent the rest of the day mining. I continued mining on day 3 since I needed iron and diamond. While mining, I heard some spiders nearby. I followed the sound and discovered a spider spawner. If it was any other spawner, I probably would have been more excited. The loot on the chest wasn't amazing, but I did find some leather and made a bundle. It's my first time using one, and honestly, it was pretty useful. So far, I did not have any armor, so for protection, I made a shield and continued to mine. I found a cave where I spotted my first diamond. There was just one problem. I didn't have any iron to mine them. So I started looking for iron, but somehow managed to find even more diamonds and even a skeletal spawner before finding a single piece of iron. Eventually, I found some, made an iron pickaxe, and mined all the diamonds I had found, bringing me one step closer to my goal. With my new diamonds, I made a diamond pickaxe and continued exploring only to find another spider spawner. I continued to explore, found some more diamonds. Eventually, my inventory was full of items, forcing me to head back up to the surface. When I got up, a bunch of pigs and sheep had spawned, which meant I could now breed them for food. My food situation was pretty rough, so I went back to killing some more fish. I wanted to head back into the mine as soon as possible for my goal of getting full diamond before day 10, so I quickly took care of a few things around the island. I then realized I had gotten some bones from killing skeletons, so I decided to turn them into bone meal and got some more seeds for my farm. With that, I went to sleep and day 4 came to an end. On day 5, I went back into the mines and started digging a tunnel to find more diamonds. Before long, I found a massive cave filled with mobs and tons of diamonds. I hesitated for a second, but decided the diamonds were worth the risk. I rushed in fighting mobs while mining diamonds at the same time. Looking back at it now, it was probably not the smartest thing to do in hardcore mode. I also did a bit of speed bridging for some reason. I made myself a diamond chestplate for some protection and kept exploring deeper into the cave. I grabbed any ores I could see. Then I found another massive cave, somehow even worse than the first one. The second I walked in, I got jumped by an army of zombies and had to hide in a tiny hole. Once I recovered, I fought my way back out. I had decided to go back up to the surface, but the cave had even more diamonds, and at this point, greed had completely taken over. After fighting off another army of mobs, I finally mined enough diamonds to craft full diamond armor before I made any iron armor, completing one of my goals. Eventually, I completely ran out of food and had to slowly make my way out of the caves, dodging mobs the entire time and nearly dying. After barely surviving the caves, I finally made my way back to the surface. Desperate for food, I slaughtered the first pig I saw. Then I made a full set of diamond tools and had another 8 diamonds left over, which was honestly pretty crazy this early on. I was still very low on food, so for like the 5th time in this series, I went back to murdering fish for food. I really need to figure out a better food source. While I was farming fish, this drowned with a trident wouldn't leave me alone. When I tried to kill it, it almost killed me instead. After losing 5.5 hearts, I swam away, barely escaping. That was close. I cooked up some food to recover, and since the day was already coming to an end, I bred up the sheep, chopped some trees, and went to sleep. After achieving so much in such a short amount of time, I decided it was finally time to relax. So, I crafted a fishing rod, sat by the ocean, turned on some music, and spent the entire day fishing. Also, if you've been enjoying the video so far, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Anyway, enjoy this completely necessary montage of me fishing for the entire day. Now that was some quality content. After spending an entire day fishing, this was the loot I got. Incredible. But at least I got enough fish to solve my food problem for the next 5 minutes. After cooking everything, I had another goal in mind. I wanted to make another portal and an enchanting table, so I grabbed a water bucket and headed back into the mines to get obsidian. While mining the obsidian, I accidentally placed a block on my water source and deleted it. Clearly, I'm a professional. After mining the remaining obsidian, I had to go all the way back to the surface to get more water and return to mine the rest of the obsidian. This time, trying very hard not to sabotage myself. Eventually, I got exactly 14 obsidian, which was enough for another portal and an enchanting table, assuming sugarcane actually exists in this world. I then built a portal and lit it up. The rest of the day, I prepared myself for my first trip into the Nether. After finishing my preparations, I stepped into the portal, spawning in the worst biome. I guess my luck was starting to run out. I wanted to look for a fortress since I needed blaze rods. While I was exploring trying to find one, a ghast nearly sniped me. I heard it and ran away as fast as possible. I then killed a zombie pigman which luckily dropped me a gold helmet, which was the one thing I forgot to bring. Right next to him was a warped forest perfect for enderman spawns, and since I would eventually need their balls, I started killing them. Unfortunately, I only got one, and one of those precious pearls fell straight into the lava. After that, I continued my search. I eventually found a fortress and also killed some endermen along the way. I started looting the chest and even found diamonds in them. Then I found a blaze spawner. I started farming them and some of them almost killed me several times. I ran, I fought, and repeated this until I found enough blaze rods. I then made my way back. On my way back to the portal, I decided to kill as many endermen as I could find. I really wanted to avoid coming back here, so I stayed there farming endermen and managed to collect 12 pearls. And with the blaze rods I just found, I could turn it into blaze powder and make enderites. This meant I was one step closer to my goal of defeating the dragon. By the time I reached the portal, it was already day 11. I stepped through and finally returned to my island. I had gotten 12 pearls and 13 blaze rods. I decided to make the Eye of Ender and had 7 blaze rods remaining in case I needed them. I sorted all my items into my chest. I was pretty satisfied with what I got from the Nether. I then cooked up some more food and got ready for a massive project. I basically wanted to mine out the entire island since I decided I would make my very own custom island. Surely mining the entire island won't take that long, right? That took 12 days. Maybe mining with unenchanted tools wasn't a very good idea. After mining the entire island, this is what I got. All this will be useful while building my very own island. Food was still a problem, so I harvested some wheat and made some bread. Since I was planning on going to the end soon, I decided to make a farm out of the skeleton spawner I had found. I mainly wanted arrows since I had no way of getting infinity, and the bones would be just an added bonus. I gathered what I needed and headed down into the mines where I found the spawner. I started mining out the spawner room 4 wide on each side. To build the farm, the tutorials I used were these. I basically combined the two to make this farm. The skeletons drop here and are then taken down the water stream where they land in the spike and take some damage. There was just one problem. The spawner was so close to the bedrock that I couldn't make the drop as tall as it was supposed to be. Instead of an 11 block drop, I had to settle for a much shorter one. It still worked fine and I was pretty satisfied with it. I decided to spend the rest of the day farming the skeletons and mining out the room. My goal was to get 2 stacks of arrows, which hopefully should be enough to kill the dragon. On day 24, I continued farming the skeletons while also mining out the room to add a bit of decoration. I also went ahead and mined 10 obsidian since I wanted to make a portal at the Stronghold and make traveling easier. After mining the obsidian, I went back to the farm and started decorating while also farming the skeletons. With the limited blocks I had, the room didn't look half bad. I continued doing this for the rest of the day. I finally farmed enough arrows and started making my way back up to the surface. I put away my items, took out the Eyes of Ender and started preparing for my journey to the Stronghold. I then threw my first eye and it immediately broke. I really hope the end portal has at least one eye already in it. I hopped into my boat and began my journey. Along the way I saw a shipwreck and decided to go loot it. The loot was pretty disappointing, so I got back into my boat and continued the search. After traveling around 2000 blocks, I finally found the spot where I think the stronghold is. I swam down, placed a door and started digging. I also found some clay, which I needed, so mined some. Before long, I dropped right into the stronghold and got the I Spy achievement. I started navigating the stronghold and found the end portal pretty easily. I placed the ice and activated the portal, but I had another objective. Since I still hadn't found any sugarcane in this world, the only source of books was the bookshelf room, so I continued my search. While exploring, I also discovered that the stronghold had generated alongside the trial chamber, which was pretty cool. Eventually, I found a library. After looting a chest and getting a pretty decent enchanted book, I gathered as many books as I could and headed back to the portal room. On day 27, I organized my inventory and was ready to head into the portal and hopefully defeat the dragon. I read it myself and jumped in. To be honest, I was pretty nervous. If I died now, it would all be over, so I had to lock in. I bridged onto the main island and began taking down the crystals. I wasn't missing any shots, which was pretty surprising to be honest. On the final tower, I had to pillar up and destroy it up close. After destroying the pillars, I started shooting the dragon. I had to make sure I didn't miss since I had a limited number of arrows. When it perched, I would tickle its feet and continue doing this. Eventually, I got pretty confident and even hit 8 shots on the dragon while missing only once. I continued and eventually killed the dragon, completing yet another goal. It was day 27 and I had already completed 2 of my goals and it felt amazing. I gathered all the XP left by the dragon hitting level 71. I collected the egg and was ready to now go loot some end cities. Honestly, I didn't really want an elytra since I didn't have access to rockets in the first place. I just wanted the shulkers and the loot the cities provide. I gathered some blocks and made my way to the portal. After going through the portal, I started searching for end cities hoping I don't fall somehow. I cranked up my render distance to the max, which should help with the search. Eventually, I found an end city and made my way to it. I had forgotten how annoying it is to fight the shulkers. I killed a few of them and made my way to the room with a chest where I found a fortune tree, mending iron pickaxe, and a surprisingly good diamond sword. I came pretty close to dying a few times, but my trusty shield managed to save me. After fighting a few more shulkers, I had decided I had enough. I hated fighting those things and gave up, leaving with enough shells to craft a few shulker boxes. I started making my way back to the gateway portal. Along the way, I found an entirely different portal. I took out my pearl and made my way back to the main end island and went through the portal and got greeted by the credit sequence. But I had no time to wait since I had other goals to get through. So I just skipped it and finally on day 29, I returned back to my island. I organized all the loot I got, farmed some more wheat for food and finally made an enchanting table with the books I got. I also made enough bookshelves for level 30 enchants. I wanted to enchant a diamond pickaxe but then I realized I had only 1 diamond left. Guess mining the entire island with diamond tools wasn't a good idea. Since I needed more diamonds, I made 2 iron pickaxes and enchanted them. The enchants weren't great, but they would have to do. With the fortune pickaxe I got from the end, I made my way into the mines determined to get tons of diamonds. With that, I spent the rest of the day in the mines looking for diamonds. I continued to mine and eventually found a cave. I started looking around for diamonds and immediately found some. Excited to use my fortune pickaxe, I mined them and continued looking for even more diamonds. I fought off some mobs and mined every vein of diamonds I could see. And before I knew it, I had already gotten more than a stack of diamonds. I could not see any more diamonds in the cave, so I went back to my strip mine. I basically mined the entire day and managed to find another 13 diamonds. It wasn't terrible, but compared to what I achieved, it was disappointing. I realized that caves are just much better for finding diamonds and decided to head back up. I made my way back to the surface and immediately crafted a diamond pickaxe. I guess I was excited to finally get some proper tools and armor. The first enchant on the pickaxe were disappointing, so I made another and enchanted it. I got efficiency 4, unbreaking 3, which was much better since I already had fortune. I started enchanting the rest of my gear, and I even managed to get fortune 3 enchant, which I decided to put on my pickaxe. After enchanting everything, I dyed one of my shulker boxes white and turned it into a sort of backpack, filling it with items I used most often. I was running low on food again, so I just bone mealed some wheat and made some more bread with it. By the time I was done, the day was almost over, so I just decided to load as much dirt as I have into my shulker boxes since I was finally going to start making my base and I wanted to make an island first. Anyways, enjoy the time lapse. I forgot to unpause my recording. I think the last layer or at least an entire day of recording was lost. But all I really did was place more dirt blocks, so I guess it could have been worse. I will try my best not to make that mistake again. Moving on, I managed to finish a large portion of the main island. This also won't be the only island, so I still have a lot more work to do. I built as much as my resources allowed, and the areas marked with the cobblestone and turf are where I plan on building houses or adding some boulder later on. Since the day was already coming to an end, I decided to sleep. While I was putting away my items, I realized what a mess my storage had become. So I decided to finally build my first house. Honestly, I'm surprised it took me this long. Since I needed stone bricks for my house, I put together a simple smelter and started smelting my cobblestone. While that was running, I filled my shulker boxes with materials I would need. The house would require a lot of wood, so I started planting trees, bone milling them, and chopping them. And before I knew it, the day came to an end. I woke up on day 39 and decided to farm some spruce logs. I wanted to grow a big tree, so in order to prevent the podzol from spreading to my island, I built up a little bit and grew it. I continued chopping down trees until I ran out of bone meal. I wanted to get even more wood, so I decided to visit my skeleton farm again. I had enchanted this sweeping edge tree diamond sword, which I wanted to combine with my current sword. So, I made an anvil and combined them, leaving me with 26 levels. I made my way to the skeleton farm and spent the entire night farming the skeletons. After farming the entire night, I managed to get 54 bones, which is less than I expected. Maybe trying to get a looting sword wouldn't be such a bad idea. I made my way back up to the surface and chopped some more trees before starting to build my first house. I went for a medieval style for the house. It's not really my style of building, but I tried my best. The materials were pretty limited, so my block palette had to be pretty simple. I used turf and stone for the foundation of the house and moved on to using oak and spruce for the rest. The roof was made out of deep slate varieties, which you can't really go wrong with. I added some fence gate as supports, fence for the windows, and trapdoors to act as shutters. I also used some spruce sign, which I think looks pretty good. Considering the limited materials, I was pretty happy with how it turned out. After that, I started my work on the interior of the house. I kept it pretty simple since there wasn't a lot of space. I made sure to add enough chests so I could organize all my items properly as well. I also made a stairway to the second floor where I planned on making my bedroom. I added some more small details and before I knew it, the day had already come to an end. I didn't really do anything special on this day. I basically just spent the entire day moving and organizing my items. I continued organizing my items and cleaned up my previous chest. Now it looks a lot better. While I was making the island, I had to get rid of small wheat farm which I had set up, so I decided to make another small island to take its place. I also wanted easy access to that island from my main island, so I decided to make a small bridge. I made it mostly out of spruce and it got the job done. I started doing chores around the island like adding a path, farming some wheat for food, and chopping down some trees, which kept me busy for the rest of the day. On day 47, I wanted some extra shulker shells, so I decided to go loot some more entities. I also wanted to make a stasis chamber which would help me teleport back home from any dimension, so I started gathering materials for the stasis chamber. I started making it, and honestly, I don't really understand it. So if you guys want to make one, just go ahead and watch this video which I used. After making the stasis chamber, I made my way to the Nether portal which is directly connected to the end portal. When I reached the end, something triggered it. I don't really know what, but at least I know it works now. Thankfully, I had extra ender pearls, so I just set it up again and made my way to the end. I started exploring, trying to find end cities. I finally found one which even had a ship. I made some slabs and started bridging to it. I killed the circles and looted the elytra. I also found this amazing diamond pickaxe. After that, I went back to killing the circles for the shells. While I was doing that, this enderman almost killed me and I quickly used my stasis chamber, surviving with only half a heart. Thank God I decided to make it. I finally decided it was time to start working on my base. It required a ton of materials, so I planned on spending the next couple of days material gathering. The materials I will need to gather are these. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. I decided to start a material gathering with leaves. It was taking a long time since I also had to go get bones every time I ran out of bone meal. I'm starting to wish I made a proper mob farm instead. While I wait for the trees to grow naturally, I decided to start farming the other materials as well. I could narrate and show everything I farmed, but I don't think that would be very entertaining. There is also a lot to collect, so enjoy this montage of me gathering all the materials. After gathering materials for several days, I was almost done. I just needed to wait for some cobblestone to smelt. While I was farming for materials, I had found this nether fortress which consistently spawned a bunch of wither skeletons. So I decided to farm them for their skulls and fight the wither. I made my way to the nether fortress and started hunting wither skeletons. Even with a looting sword, it took so much time, and these blazes were so annoying. I don't know how others get it so fast, maybe I'm just unlucky. After killing them for 2 days straight, I finally got enough to fight the wither. With all 3 skulls finally collected, I headed back home ready to fight the wither. It was finally time to fight the wither. I wasn't going to fight the wither on the surface since I didn't want everything to be destroyed, so I headed into the mines. I dug out a fairly long tunnel and finally summoned the wither. I started fighting the wither just to realize it was a bit too easy. Maybe I should have fought it in the surface. At one point, I started punching the wither and basically using it as a way to mine. After punching the wither to death, I went back to the hole it created and started mining the diamonds it exposed. I got 35 diamonds. Withers are a really good way for mining diamonds. On my way back, I also got 3 obsidian to make a beacon, and with that, the day came to an end. On day 65, I made a beacon and placed it temporarily. I have the perfect spot for it after I fully built my base. And with that out of the way, everything was finally ready. It was time to start building. On day 81, it was finally done. Well, kinda. There was still some grass that needed to spread and some more things I needed to add. Honestly, it wouldn't have taken as long if I hadn't miscalculated some of the blocks and had to go gather them in the middle of building. I organized my items and went into the mines to gather some bones and lava. I placed the beacon that I got on top of the volcano and surrounded it with lava. And with that, I think it looks pretty nice. I needed bone meal since I wanted to grow some grass around the island. I carefully bone mealed the grass and removed any flowers it grew. I like to place the flowers in a clump. I spent the rest of the day doing exactly that. I continued with the bone mealing and even added the flower patches, which I think looks much better than placing them randomly. I also brought the sheep into their pen. Some of them refused to go in, so I just took care of them. There was another spot, so I decided to fill it with chickens. I say fill, but I only managed to get 3 chickens. While I was building, this happy ghast had hatched, so I tried to catch it, but it kept running away. I was getting pretty annoyed and even considered just shooting it. The sun set while trying to catch this guy. I wanted an area dedicated for my enchanting table, and the best place I thought of was inside the volcano. So I started building. I didn't really have an exact idea of what I wanted and decided I would just build what came to my mind. I started laying down some temporary cobblestone as foundation. I started making a floor out of the cobblestone and bought more when I ran out. I also started to make the walls. At this point, I decided I would make a sort of cave inside the volcano. I continued working on the walls, trying to make it look natural. I only used cobblestone for now since I would eventually texture them. I continued laying down the foundation and even made a small spot for a pond, and I also made some rocks. It was starting to come together. At one point I thought it would be a good idea to use the happy gas to build, so I made a harness and spent way too long trying to catch it. Only to realize it couldn't even fit inside, so I just tied it to a fence and gave up on the idea. I realized it was already day 85, so if I wanted to finish this before day 100, I had to work fast. I made a roof and continued to shape the walls to make it look as close to a cave as I could. I realized the roof looked flat, so I made some slabs and started giving it some shape. I also replaced the cobblestone on the pond to dirt and turned it into mud. Then I filled it with water. Then I just replaced the entire floor into dirt. I made some lamps out of mossy cobble and spruce fence, which I think fits pretty well. I was getting pretty tired with just staring at cobblestone, so I just started texturing with tuff for dark spots and also mixed in some andesite. Everything was looking a bit too grey, so I decided to add some leaves and made a platform using spruce and oak to hold my enchanting table. I then placed the bookshelves. It might be floating right now, but I wanted to add chains to make it look like the shelves was being held up by them, which I think will look really good. I realized I didn't have enough iron to make any chains, so I went into the mines and started mining for some iron. I continued to mine, determined to get tons of iron with my fortune pick. After mining for almost 2 days, I gathered close to 4 stacks and decided it was enough. Since I had basically made a maze, I just decided to mine up and return back to my island. I started smelting the iron I got and put away the extra materials. While it was smelting, I added some paths using coarse dirt. Enough iron had finished smelting, so I made a good number of chains and went back to the build to add the chains. Once the chains were in place, I was glad I spent the time getting the iron. I continued working on the build. I realized I needed more light inside the cave, so I made these lanterns hanging on the chain, which turned out great. I was hearing a zombie villager inside my walls and I had an idea. I put it in a boat and placed him next to the enchanting table, sort of like a librarian. The build was basically finished and all I really had to do was texture it. So I started texturing it, adding deep slate for darker spots and using tuff to blend the deep slate and the cobblestone together. On day 94, I was finally done with the build. Considering I didn't really have an idea while originally building this area, it turned out much better than I expected and I like it a lot. Before reaching day 100, I had another major goal. I wanted full netherite, which meant I would have to go loot a bastion for a netherite upgrade. In order to prepare for this journey, I enchanted my bow with power 4 and was ready to head into the nether. I threw a pearl into the stasis chamber so I could teleport back anytime I was in danger. With that, I headed into the nether in search of a bastion. I traveled for a really long time and finally found a bastion. I had to be really careful since these brutes could kill me at any moment. I carefully made my way into the bastion, slowly killing all the brutes and the piglins. I looted these 2 chests next to each other and immediately found a netherite upgrade. but I wanted to continue exploring the bastion since the loot you can get is pretty amazing. I made my way further into the bastion, not taking any risks since I didn't want to die so far into the video. I started looting the chest and even got the netherite ingot and some ancient debris. After getting the gold as well, I decided to go back and use the stasis chamber, teleporting back home. I organized all my items and feeling pretty happy with what I got, I went to sleep. Now that I had the netherite upgrade, all I needed was, well, netherite. So I made my way back into the nether, found a decent spot with little to no lava and started digging for ancient debris. I used a chunk method where you mine in between two chunks and you have a greater chance to find ancient debris. I started digging for it, mining quartz along the way to fix my pickaxe since it had mending. I continued doing this and went into a sort of trance and didn't even realize I had already reached day 100. After reaching day 100, I had no choice but to stop digging and went back home. I smelted the ancient debris I found, which wasn't a lot unfortunately, and duplicated the netherite template. Originally, I wanted full netherite tools and armor, but I only had enough to make a full set of netherite armor. I repaired my diamond armor and made a full set of netherite armor, getting the cover me in debris achievement. Considering I started on a tiny island with barely any food, I'd say we made some pretty good progress. With that, the series comes to an end. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.